welcome back to another episode of Talk Yo Shift. This is Eric.
And I'm Antoine.
Listen, as always, I say this all the time. Thank you guys for tuning into the podcast and checking out the episodes. We really hope that you guys have been enjoying it. We hope that you guys have been agreeing and disagreeing, and we just want to, further the conversations on the things that we feel like a lot of people talk about, especially when it comes to faith, theology, church, culture, the world. And we just appreciate y'all journeying with us. Twine, we don't know nothing, man. We just out here. You know what I'm saying? We just out here. We just sharing our voice and opinion and our thoughts on, a myriad of different topics. Today is one of those topics, man, that is like, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I'm not really a political person.
Same.
So I don't really understand all the political jargon or, I'm not well versed on it. Right?
Yeah, we in the same boat on that.
You know what I'm saying? But however, I do believe that as to be in this world, to be in this country as a black man, it is political, and it becomes political, right? So much of our existence has been politicized in such a way that a lot of the decisions that we see being made through the Supreme Court, and depending on who's in office, and a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of ways where it affects how we live in real time.
Real talk.
And one of the things that we want to talk about today is one of the most recent Supreme Court decisions regarding the Voting Rights Act.
Yep.
And for a lot of people, I think this is one of the hardest things about conversations around politics and specifically voting, because a lot of people immediately assume that it's about political teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Left versus right, red and blue, Republican versus Democrat, and all of that other stuff. But for a lot of people, especially in Black communities, this conversation runs a lot deeper than just politics, right? It really points to representation. It points to dignity. It points to whether people genuinely believe their voices still matter. And honestly, bro, my whole life, in our community, one of the most consistent things that I've always heard was, our votes don't matter. Our votes don't matter. And to a degree, that's true, and to a degree, it's false, right? And I think understanding the nuance in that is very important for people like us and for people who look like us. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Real talk. Bro, it's tough because it's like you said, Black people, this isn't something that's new for Black people. Racism has been a thing. Systemic issues have been a thing. And I think also it reveals too, like, a lot of a lot of the way people move and the way they go about things. Think about how it makes people feel when they know that their voice is not heard, or they know that, that them genuinely, authentically expressing themselves or sharing how they feel actually has no influence at all. Think about what that does to the human mind.
Yeah.
And where we go from there. Cause it's like, think about it. I know when I'm in a situation and there's no influence, there's nothing I can say or do, my first thought is like, all right, well, what can I do?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? If this thing isn't working, what's the next big thing? I remember Pac said it like this one time. He was like, if I show up to your house and y'all throwing a party, y'all got all this food, y'all throwing food around, stuff like that.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm knocking on the door, like, please, I'm hungry, please let us in. Yeah. We are hungry, please let us in. And then he's like, the second time, it may be a little bit more aggressive, like, hey, we hungry, we need some food.
Yeah.
And then he said, at some point it'll get to a point where it's like, give me the food, or I'm knocking on the door. And he's like, at some point you picking the lock, coming through blast. And it's like, I think that's probably why in the Black community we're perceived that way so much, as like a thugs or outlaws or violent people.
Yeah.
Because again, we're not being heard. Think about what it means to like not be heard, not be able to express or share your feelings, or again, authentically show up in these rooms or in these communities and spaces as yourself, and just simply wanting to be humanized instead of dehumanized.
Martin Luther King said it best, man. He said a riot is the language of the unheard. You know what I'm saying? And what you're talking about is like, we ask for it, then we demand it, and then we take it.
Then we take it.
The crazy part is, though, and you said something really, really, really key. You said that Black people or minority groups are viewed as that.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is, bro, if anybody is put in that situation, you're going to follow suit.
Period.
You're going to do the same thing.
Facts.
Whether you white, black, blue, red, or orange, it does not matter.
Yeah.
After you've asked and you've demanded and you're still not getting what you need, you're going to take it.
Because then survival stinks.
Yes. And trust me, bro, people will hear what I just said and think that I am justifying violence, and I'm not. This is the natural order of being human, right?
Yeah.
You know, when you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, when certain basic needs are not being met and you're asking for them and you're demanding them and you're trying to vote for them and they still not coming to fruition, it's like, what do you think happens next?
I love that Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
And you know what I'm saying? Yeah. What do you think happens next? It's not necessarily that violence happens next. Survival happens next.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to survive, bro, you will do whatever you need to do.
It might look like violence.
You know what I'm saying? You would do whatever you need to do to put food in your mouth and your children's mouth, bro.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And I think people need to understand that. Like, the way minority groups show up in certain situations, put yourself in their shoes and ask yourself, do you really think you would do it differently?
I mean, come on. Now.
And the answer is no. The answer is no.
No.
Right? The answer is no, because to be honest with you, bro, even if you go in poor white communities, rural communities, it's the same thing, bro.
It is.
It's the same thing.
100%.
You know what I'm saying? And this is something that I didn't really understand until I got older. You know what I'm saying? And here in the city that we live in, you know, I come from the hood. I come from neighborhoods where, you know, everybody ain't making money. Everybody is, you know, below the you know, they almost right there at poverty, if not a little bit above it. You know what I'm saying? So I came from them neighborhoods where people were surviving, where mothers and fathers was working multiple jobs. You know what I'm saying? I came where I was raised around drug dealers. I was raised around people who was really just trying to do whatever they could to keep food on the table.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? Now, as a kid growing up, it was always black people that seemed like they lived like that.
Real talk.
Right? And then until I grew up and I actually moved around the city more. We ain't even talking about moving state lines yet. Just moved around the city. And then I started to see some poor white communities, and some of those communities are drug infested.
Yep.
People are working multiple jobs to keep the lights on. It's like, bro, this is a human experience.
It's crazy because it's like you would think systemically like, oh, this is a black people thing. But like you said, if any group is placed into this system of oppression, it's going to be the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And that's something that I think is important for all of us to keep at the forefront, right? And don't try to just marginalize or just try to, you know, make it specific to one people group.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because the truth is we're only surviving the way we feel we need to in order for us to keep our heads above water.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, and like you said, and I love that you get that example of what Pac said, because that's a real reality for a lot of people. Right.
Facts.
So more specific to this conversation, though, because when a lot of people hear Voting Rights Act, they think that, you know, it's just about just having access to vote.
Right.
Right. And on a surface level, you would think that that's what it's all about. It's just access to vote.
Yeah.
But this conversation has never only been about whether someone can physically cast a ballot or not. It's always been about power. It's always been about representation, influence, and access. Right. Yep. It ain't just, are you allowed to vote?
Yeah.
It's way more nuanced than that. And it's way more, there's more depth to this.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's a specific reason why the Voting Rights Act was put in place back in 1865, right? So what we're talking about is not just power, representation, or influence and access. We're also talking about history, too. Like, this most recent decision is not a new thing.
Come on, bro.
You know what I'm saying? It's not a new thing. And, you know, history always repeats itself. But for black people, there has been patterns that we've seen for generations and generations and centuries, bro. You know what I'm saying?
How are we still seeing intimidation and violence?
You know what I'm saying?
26. Like, we went through this at 65. Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like, our ancestors put up with a lot of stuff, and it amazes me today that even though there's been a lot of progress made within our communities and with how our communities are treated or given a fair hand, even though there's been progress, these issues still seem to rear its head, because have we really eradicated the issues, or have we just kind of put Band-Aids on them so that we can just kind of like seem like progress has really been made?
Yeah, that's the sad reality right there. It's like, dang, is this revealing that we've ever even moved past it?
Yeah.
or we've just put band-aids on things for so long, or we've just ignored the issue or omitted the issue to where now that it actually is surfacing,
Yeah.
like we're starting to like actually perceive what was really going on
Mm-hmm.
underneath, like you said, the band-aids,
Yeah.
because the wounds never really healed.
Yeah. And all it takes is the right situation, the right person to be in office
Yep.
to really express or expose what is still there.
Facts, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Regardless of how you feel about Donald Trump,
Yeah.
you have to be honest about when someone sits in a certain seat and their level of decorum or their level of however they present themselves, how they show
Yep.
up, it does have an effect on how the rest of the world interacts with each other.
Real talk.
Right. And it shows how emotionally invested a lot of people are politically.
Yep.
And it's crazy. It's almost like you can have personal conversations about anything with everybody except for who they voting for. Like,
literally.
you know what I'm saying? It's like it becomes a very hostile environment when you
Yep.
start to have political conversations, and it could get really ugly.
Why do you think it is, D? Why you think we get so hostile about politics?
I mean, because if you bring it to a personal level, bro, it's really just it has always been about systems, right? That are put in place and infrastructures that's put in place.
Yep.
That actually either protect or they harm who it wants to protect and harm.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the ones that is harming, when they make noise that, hey, I'm hurting or hey, I'm struggling because of this system that's put in place.
Yeah.
You got those sometimes who actually were either a part of putting this system in place or that specifically put it in place.
Mm-hmm.
They put it in place in such a way where they can say, nah, that's not really happening to
That's
you.
not really happening, yeah. And make you feel delusional, like, am I tripping? Is that really not happening?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that is what this decision that we want to talk about today is really all about, right? So essentially, the Voting Rights Act that was created in 1965, my fault, I think I said 1865, I was way off. But the Voting Rights Act that was created in 1965, after generations of Black Americans faced barriers designed to stop them from participating politically.
Yeah.
Right. And we're not even talking about metaphoric boundaries or barriers. We're actually talking about real barriers, right?
Yeah.
We're talking about literacy tests, poll taxes, threats, intimidation, violence, like all of these things was happening in real time for Black people as it pertains to voting, right?
Yeah.
So the thing wasn't you couldn't vote. It wasn't that. It was you can vote. But it was more like, I dare you to vote.
I dare you to vote. Literally.
You know what I'm saying? It was like, I dare you to vote, and I'm going to intimidate you so much so, and I'm going to put these different obstacles in front of your way to make it to where it hinders you from voting. You either become mentally exhausted and you just like, man, I'm not even gonna worry about it. I'm not even gonna vote.
Come on, bro.
We see this played out throughout generations.
Yeah.
That has shown itself every 4 years as it pertains to voting. And Black people have become so laxed to the intentionality of making your voice heard and voting that they'll just be like, man, I don't even get into all that, bro. I don't even vote. Like, it don't even matter. They know who they're going to choose in the first place.
Yep. That's exactly how we approach it.
That's exactly what the white power structure wants you to do.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Because I'm challenged by that, bro. Because I ain't gonna lie, I've said that before too. Like, I can't even do anything. I'm not in control of this.
Yeah,
they have all the power, influence. Like, I know where I'm at with it internally. So I'm challenged by that, bro.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's listen, bro. I'm just now becoming more aware of how this stuff shows up in real time. But the truth is, bro, it's like we have to have some level of awareness about how this stuff really shows up, because if you want to complain about the price of milk going up, then you
goes into that.
You got to understand how all of that trickles down to your grocery list. You know what I'm saying? Because let's be honest, bro. Our ancestors would have not fought and died for this access and for this right if it didn't mean nothing.
Come on.
If it didn't mean nothing, bro. Like, they understood that together we're stronger, and voting is something we can do together.
Absolutely.
It's something we can do together. And we ain't just talking about at the presidential level. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Also, your district, your region, your state, your city, all of that. Like, voting matters, right? From the judge you put into your courtrooms, to the mayors, to the governors, to all of these different people that play a part in just your part of the world. We ain't even talking about who's the next president, but just in your part of the world.
Real talk.
You know what I'm saying? And it's important for people to just have basic knowledge of how all of this plays a part into your real lived experience.
Yeah, I'm challenged by that, for sure, to like just, like you said, have basic knowledge and awareness of what's going on, because all of this is really ultimately domino effect. It trickles down. It's gonna be implemented or play a part in the systemic issues that we're seeing today to some degree, and that's why it's important to pay attention to it.
It is, man. It is. People literally lost their lives trying to secure something many Americans treat just casually. Right. And sometimes the way we treat it casually, and sometimes it's just a lack of awareness and a lack of knowledge about it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And over time, the Voting Rights Act became one of the country's strongest protections against racial discrimination in voting. Right.
Ooh.
But in recent years, part of that protection has slowly been weakened through court decisions. And the most recent ruling has many people concerned because it makes it harder to challenge voting maps. And that's what we was talking about offline. It makes it more harder to challenge voting maps that may weaken the voting power of minority communities. So I'm gonna give you the same analogy that I gave you offline, just so people can have a basic understanding, because my son was trying to understand it all, right? And I'm gonna keep it real. I went to ChatGPT and I was like, yo, explain this most recent Voting Rights Act decision so I can explain it to a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So basically the analogy that it gave me, it made it real simple for me to understand too. So imagine my son going to school and there's 100 kids voting on something fun, like what movie they gonna watch. And so 40 of those people in his group, 40 of those of that 100 is his friend group.
It's his friend group.
So essentially, that seems like they would have a strong voice in the voting.
That's his community.
That's his community. Now, his teacher does something tricky. His teacher decides to split up that 40 and put them in different classrooms. So now they will always be outnumbered in each classroom that they vote in. So now that 40 is scattered. So now it looks like it's only going to be less than 10 voting in each one, and they will always be outnumbered.
Wow. Now what about like that 60? So is it almost like they take that 40, scatter the 40, and then the 60 like stays as a combined group?
It stays more combined so that they have more of an upper hand. So consider that the voting map.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like this is why this Voting Rights Act is so important. It's so because nobody said that those 40 can't vote. They're still allowed to vote.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
And but it's almost like, I dare you. I dare you, because you're not going to win.
You know what I'm saying? But this is why messaging is so important, right? Because if you just look at things at a surface level, you would think that no right has been taken away from you. And essentially, it hasn't.
It hasn't,
Essentially, the right has not been taken away from you. However, there are layered complexities to that right that seems like it has not been taken away from you, but it just shows up different.
It's like reading the fine print.
It's reading the fine print, right? It's reading the fine print. So the 40 that once believed that they had a strong voice, and if we vote together, we actually got a hand in this fight.
Absolutely.
Now they've been spread out. So they still cast their vote, but they still seem to be outnumbered.
Wow.
And
that makes so much sense.
They still come out on the bottom. You feel me?
Yeah.
So so some people hear Voting Rights Act and they think because the access of voting is still there, they then think, they ask the question of, well, if everyone can technically vote, then what's the issue? This is what, man, and I'm trying to keep this conversation at a minimum, but it's so much stuff that really pops out. It's like when stuff looks like it's right and fair on the surface, this is what gives people the ammunition to gaslight people.
Yes.
Because
come on, D, bro.
when somebody starts fussing or arguing or complaining about how unfair something is, they get to say stuff like, well, you can still vote.
You can still vote.
Who said you can't vote?
Right.
Who said you can't vote? You can still vote. Like, you're complaining about something that hasn't been taken away from you. You can still vote.
Just completely disregarding the nuance and variables that all go into it.
And that's the play. That's the play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the stuff. That's why it's important for us and other minority groups
to have that basic knowledge.
And be aware of how this messaging really circulates around in the media, in your neighborhoods, in your school, in your churches. You know what I'm saying? And all of that type of stuff. It's really important for us to be aware of that. So when people are just like, you can still vote, so what's the issue?
Right.
That's the disconnect. That's the disconnect, because yes, you technically have the right to vote while your influence is still diluted.
Exactly.
Your influence is still it's not impactful. Yeah, you can vote.
Right.
But how much that vote really shows up, that's the issue.
Come on, bro. This conversation is important, man. I'm really challenged by this. I hope y'all do listen.
It's really layered, bro, right? Yeah. And that's what many of these conversations are really actually about. You know, 100%. So
this is why community is so important, because just like you said, that group in that classroom is scattered, and you have the 60 that are still in a way combined to where they always have, like, majority rule, majority vote, or majority authority over the situation. Yeah, I think that's why it's so important for us to have community, us to have basic knowledge, us to share our values, share our perspectives. And these communities come together.
Yes.
Because just like we did back in 65, the Black communities came together.
Yeah.
Right, in order to fight, challenge against these systems of oppression.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, y'all. It's like, hey, I'm challenged by it to just have basic knowledge on these things. Hope y'all challenged by it to just have basic knowledge on these things and join together, be community. Right.
Absolutely.
Stop fighting over left or right. We shouldn't be so focused on what side are you on.
Yeah.
We should focus on what values do you share? Are you for the betterment of humanity or the harm of humanity?
Yeah.
And you determine there, and community comes together and we can challenge these systems.
Yeah. It's important, bro. And like you said, community is very important, and it's important for us to be intentional about sharing this information amongst one another. Even if that means you got to open up a text chat or a text group and put it in your phone with a few of your friends. Be like, yo, I know I'm not a political person, but this has been a big conversation on my news feed, and I just want to see what y'all's thoughts is on this, right?
Come on, be proactive.
And that keeps the conversation moving forward. And now it's like, now more people can because the thing about this political shit, bro, you're going to need community in order for you to not get exhausted with this stuff, bro.
Come on.
Because the problem is,
it's almost never ending like theology.
It really is, bro, and it gets exhausting, man. I mean, theology and politics are two things that if you talk about them online, they coming for your neck.
Nah.
They gonna be on your neck, like straight up.
Facts.
You can just simply and honestly, and without even bad talking to anybody, you can just openly disagree with something that Donald Trump says, and they coming for you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You ain't even got to down talk the man. You ain't even got to make it look ugly, but you're just saying, yo, this decision is horrible.
Right. I disagree with it.
And they go and they going for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
saying? People are like, you are the Antichrist and whatever else they say.
And it gets exhausting. So it's like one of the things that I wanted to kind of do with this conversation, and one of the things that I really think we take pride in on our platform is how we ground people in this reality, right? Mm-hmm. And not just try to fearmonger or just give them something else to be mad about, but it's like, okay, cool. How do we sit with this, and how do we move accordingly with this information? You know what I'm saying? And because that's what people need to know, how to keep their feet on the ground and not be so flighty emotionally to where we're just making hasty decisions, or we're just too exhausted to make a decision at all.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Because these conversations definitely don't require fear mongering.
No, they don't. They don't require that at all. The media might give you that, but they really don't require that.
They don't.
Right? Because there are younger people today who feel disconnected from politics altogether.
Altogether, yeah.
Right?
Facts.
And a lot of people feel exhausted They feel disillusioned and they feel hopeless when it comes to this stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine the analogy I gave you. It's like, out of these 100 kids, 40 of them are my people. And then I look at us, we galvanize ourselves together, and we're like, yeah, we got a voice in this.
Right.
But
and then we get split up to 5 each in the room. It's like,
that's exhausting. And that makes you feel hopeless. You feel me? Like a lot of the turmoil and a lot of the stuff that Black people have had to deal with historically in this country, a lot of it has been successful because of just exhaustion, bro. Just exhaustion.
Yeah.
And these infrastructures and structures, systems, they live off of that.
Literally.
They want you to be so disconnected from it that you don't even think you have a voice in this fight.
Absolutely.
Because
I think that's why they do it the way they do it.
Yeah.
Like you said, where you technically have the right to vote, but read the fine print.
Yeah. If I could get you to stay home and not come to the voting ballots, that's better for the system.
Come on.
That's better for the infrastructure that was put in place.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And if I could keep you from coming to the voting ballots, and then you start to complain about the outcome of the vote, then it's like, well, why didn't you come out and vote? It's more gaslighting. You know what I'm saying? Why didn't you come out and vote? You had the access to vote. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they feed off of that. You
History
know,
repeating itself in the same form.
Yeah. And it gets so exhausting, and we get so it gets to the point where we feel hopeless that some people genuinely believe that voting changes absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say it again.
I've had those thoughts before.
If our ancestors have died and fought for this access and this opportunity to vote, they knew how much power it had or has.
Ooh, that's actually a very good point, D. Because when you think about it, it's like, who dies for something they know is ridiculous? Who dies for what they know isn't? Wow,
they're actually conscious that this is ridiculous and it's not worth my fight.
Literally,
right? Because even if you think, because what immediately popped up in my head was like gang violence, right?
Yeah,
and it's like you got gangbangers who would die over their set or their color, but
literally.
they actually believe it's worth dying over.
Literally, like that's
what I'm saying.
That's what they've been inheriting.
Yeah, it might be dumb and it might be senseless, but they actually believe it's worth dying over.
Come on, bro.
So our ancestors, they understood and they believed that this is so important that we will fight tooth and nail, even if it means costing me my life, to make sure that the people after me had that same access.
Wow.
Even if I don't get to see it, right? Martin Luther King understood that I might not even see this dream coming to fruition.
Yeah.
But I need my children to see it.
I'm willing to suffer and endure pain so that they can see it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But we see how this stuff shows up from our ancestors. Like there's just certain things you remember when you was at your grandmama's house or your older auntie's house or whatever. And, a lot of this stuff really sits in our body, man. It doesn't just come from just our mind, but it really sits in our body. And sometimes the exhaustion of our ancestors, it shows itself through even current times.
Yeah, it's been passed down to us.
Yeah, and that's why when we are intentional about being resilient, that's why it speaks volumes, right? Because we're being resilient against a system that was supposed to make us exhausted.
For sure.
And when you show up anyway, when you fight for it anyway, when you vote anyway, when you put your life on the line for it anyway, it speaks volumes, right? And that just speaks to the richness, and it speaks to the depth, and it speaks to the greatness of our ancestors and our community, Black community just as a whole, right? Our level of resilience just shows up totally different because 100%. It was so much stuff that was against us just for being.
Absolutely.
Just for being. Not
human.
even saying a word, but just being, not even being human, but being Black.
Just being Black.
You know what I'm saying? That we had to overcome and come against. And that's why our resilience just shows up that much more different.
Imagine your existence being an issue alone.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's wild, bro. It's wild.
That's insane, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why these conversations really get emotional for some people, right?
100%.
But politics alone, that's why it gets so emotional for people. And not
And
necessarily because they worship politicians and not because they think one party will save humanity, but because representation matters. That's really what we've been fighting for the whole time. Here, listen, bro. Black people have no plan, and we never really had a plan to do to others what has been done to us.
Nope.
And I think that has been a fear of our white counterparts for a long time. It's like,
let's talk about it.
You think we want to enslave y'all and do the malicious and horrible things that was done to us historically? You think we want to do that? No, we just want y'all to leave us alone.
Leave us alone and let us be free.
And let everything be fair. Like, I deserve to be here.
Yep.
I deserve to have a voice. I deserve to vote. I deserve to be at the table, because the truth is my ancestors were responsible for building this table in the first place. And you telling me I can't even sit at
it. You telling me I can't even sit at the table they built.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we deserve that fairness just like anyone else. Facts. Right? And it does. It still behooves me. It blows my mind that people are like, nah.
What do you mean? Like, nah, your voice don't deserve to get heard.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like, what do you mean?
It's wild, bro. It's wild that we're still living in that. It's wild that we still see that. And this Voting Rights Act, this most recent decision, shows that. It exposes that we're still there, bro.
Shows that we're still there. It's crazy, man. Because, I mean, like you said, you would think that, I'm not going to say we haven't made progress, but seeing things like this, it almost feels like, bro, we're really taking a few steps back. Yeah. And like Malcolm X said, progress isn't, if you stick a knife in my back and you pull it out 6 inches, that isn't progress.
Yeah.
If you pull it out all the way, that's not even progress. Yeah. Progress is actually tending to and healing the wound.
Yeah.
And that's what, like you said, our white counterparts, or the people that have built these systems and structures,
is
that they don't actually, they haven't even initiated or been proactive about healing the wound. For them, it's just, they think progress is, oh, you still have the right to vote, but read the fine print.
And that experiencing that over and over, is exhausting, right?
And survival instincts kicked in, like Pac said, and we breaking down the door and we taking it.
And we're the problem.
And we're
you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and I think one of the most dangerous things that can happen in any society is when people stop believing that their voice actually matters. That's what's dangerous, is when they believe that their voice actually doesn't matter, when they stop believing that.
Yeah.
Because hopelessness creates disconnection, and people just stop participating altogether. Right. And now that becomes an internal fight that we have within our community, right? Because you see the activists that are like telling people, no, you need to go out and vote, because there's something that they understand. Like there's the connection, and they understand that is a disconnect, to be so exhausted and to be so disconnected. And like, there's grace given for that. Like, I understand why you disconnected, because you really think that you going to that ballot or you going to standing in that voting line doesn't matter.
And I get that.
That's what you've been told, but that's not the truth. Like, again, keep at the forefront of your mind, whoever listens to this, your ancestors fought and died for a reason.
It means it has to mean something.
It has to mean something.
Yeah.
It don't matter what white people say about it or any other people group say about it. Because my ancestors fought for it, I have to participate.
Yeah. And the fact that actually, too, the fact that the Voting Rights Act has been changed, or whatever it has been as of recent, should tell you that it's that important.
Yeah.
Because if it wasn't, it would just been left alone.
Yeah.
This is something that's been established back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Now we're revisiting it, renegotiating, and touching on it again.
Absolutely.
That should open our eyes that, hold on, something's going on behind closed doors.
It should. Because the same exhaustive narrative and pattern is still showing up over and over and over again. And people stop participating, they stop caring, and they stop engaging with each other. And eventually communities begin to feel invisible.
Come on, bro.
And I'm going to stick a fork in it right there, bro. We're going to have a part 2 of this conversation.
Okay, let's mess with that.
I think what's really important is not just understanding politics and being ultrally aware of how everything kind of ties together, but it's really sitting with it in a more personal space, right? How do you bring all of this stuff home? right? Because I think that in the grand scheme is like, yes, you want to see how do we move forward as a people. And if you are a leader or a communicator to some degree, you do want to do something in your part of the world that moves the people forward. But you want to always ask the question, well, what does this mean for me and my family?
Yeah. Real talk.
Right? What does this mean for me so that I can make it personal? Because sometimes when you only see things on the stage, it just looks like a play to you. But when you bring things actually to your front door, it becomes a situation that you have to confront. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna do a part 2 to this, bro.
Yeah, let's do it, bro. I like this.
But yeah, so man,
before we leave, D,
go ahead.
I want to ask you this: with everything being said, what would you say that somebody could take leaving this conversation? What can they take? Just because we're gonna do part 2, but just leaving this conversation, what's something they can do?
One, keep at the forefront of your mind that your ancestors died for a decision that you need to make. That's one. 2, believe that people can love you as a person, but hate you as a people. So keep that in mind.
Love you as a person, but hate you as a people.
Yeah, they might like you, but as a people group, yeah, that's where the line is drawn.
I'm trying to make that make sense.
I'll make it make sense in part 2. So until then, man, we appreciate y'all tuning in. But as always, continue to be curious, ask questions, and talk your shit. We'll holler at y'all.
Peace.